This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening. I'll call the meeting to order and inform the public that this is a telemeeting with remote participation and that attendees are not at Town Hall. First on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept as printed the minutes of the June 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if everyone received the June 16th minutes, so I'll table those for 1 week, a motion to table for 1 week.
Okay, there's a
Second.
motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's table, thank you. Next up is department heads, our highway superintendent, Ed Buckley. Ed, are you with us?
I am. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly, thank you.
Okay. Have some highway department updates for the month of May and June. As you know, we're ongoing with our paving projects out there, and we've now completed all the main paving on North Main Street, Britton Street, Locust Street, and Forest Street. Those would be the main roads, and then we did another half dozen side roads for the sewer department. Those are also complete. We still have some landscaping and some little detail work to do on those roads, but they're in good shape. We also started our pavement markings over the weekend. They started marking out our crosswalks and stop bars, and we're getting ready to mark out North Main Street. We're going to do that road in thermoplastic, a more durable, long-lasting paint. And I'm also looking to let the board know that we were planning to try and put shared bike lane symbols in the, we'll be able to do a wide shoulder on that road. There'll be 11-foot travel lanes for the cars and then a 4-foot bike lane in both directions between the Bridgewater line and the intersection at Center Street. So I'd like to proceed with that. If you folks have any feedback, we're in the planning stages on that right now. And then we'll move on with all our regular painting and remarking throughout the town. Some more of that's going to go on this evening and throughout this week and next week, and that should get us in good shape for the 4th of July. Also, the White Street footbridge project has begun. They started on Monday. They're out there excavating for the foundations for the footbridge. So I expect that to move along steadily now throughout the summer, probably be done in time for school if that happens. And other than that, we're also preparing, helping the town clerk with preparing for the election this coming weekend. And we'll be putting the flags out again shortly before the 4th of July holidays. And then we're just doing some general street sweeping and as much as we can, brush cutting with all the other projects we have going on. I think that's all I have at the moment.
Thank you, Ed. Sorry, I got muted somehow. Appreciate that. Any questions for Ed, Mrs. Smith?
No, I have no questions. Just thanks, Ed. Only one thing, Ed. On these bike paths that you're putting, do they start from nowhere and end in nowhere? Or do they actually have a start and a stop?
Well, I know, you know, I mean, basically, it's this, you know, the intent is to provide access in the long run. I think we can accommodate bike lanes or shared bike lanes from the Bridgewater town line to the Taunton town line. And I do see bicycle traffic out there on South Main Street and North Main Street and Pleasant Street. So, but the intent is to try to create a corridor between Bridgewater and Taunton. And then I know Serpide has a master bike plan in the works, and eventually we may be able to connect up through Elm Street East over to 138. And I know they're main roads, and there are concerns with traveling on those main roads, but people do use them for biking, and I think overall it would add to the safety to make people aware that there are going to be bikes out there. And we can, we can certainly try this section out. And if it doesn't work out for us for any reason, we can let the markings fade out or black them out if we decide to change it.
I was just curious, how it is on 44. It starts out of nowhere and ends nowhere. So that'd be
Yeah.
nice if you could have a continuation of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, these things are built in piece by piece, and, the long term, they're trying to connect a bunch of things together. And so I think, it would at least allow us a complete throughway through our town. So we'd be going, you could potentially ride from coming in from Bridgewater and, be guided all the way through to Taunton and out to the shopping areas on 44. I mean, that's probably the only continuous route that we can do and have enough width to show, a bike lane.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the info.
You're welcome. And I also, I want to just say thank you very much, Mrs. Smith. I know you're winding down with your term as a selectman, and I've very much enjoyed working with you all these years that I've been in Raynham now, and really appreciate your guidance and input during my time there. And I'm going to miss you being part of this board.
Thank you very much for those very kind words, sir.
You're welcome.
Miss Riley, anything for Ed?
Yeah, just Mr. Buckley, thank you so much in your department for all of their efforts. And it sounds as usual, you're really busy, and including setting up for the annual town meeting. Thank you so much for that and for everything. One question for you, Ed, is plans for the Hazardous Waste Day still on?
It is. I apologize. I know the date. It's
mid-July, I
July.
think.
Yeah, July. I have to double check. I apologize. I should have that, but it's either July 11th or July 18th. But it is planned for that Saturday. I believe it's the 11th. I'd have to take a quick look. It's advertised on our webpage. It just for some reason I've got a block on the date in my mind right now.
Well, we have time to promote it some more. So thank you so much, Ed.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. All right, old business, discussion and action on the continuation of the Raynham's policy on absorbing the 25-cent ACH transaction fee. We had voted on this through, I believe, the end of the month because folks were not, and still at this point are not allowed in town hall. And so this is the discussion about continuing it. My recommendation to the board would be that we continue it until such time that town hall is open to the public again.
I would agree with that, Mr. Chairman, and I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Thank you. Town operation, how operations continued. The only thing left on this, Ms. Riley, you had requested I put together some bullet points relevant to the communication increase I've been asking for, and I had sent that out, and I believe that the board received that.
I did receive it in the packet today, Mr. Chairman, and I would like if we could maybe table that for 1 week. I'd like to maybe have our town administrator to send that out to our department heads to see if that's doable or if there are any concerns on their part. It certainly looks like a good start. I would ask you though, escalated constituent inquiries, what constitutes an escalated constituent inquiry?
I consider any escalation one that comes to a member of the board, because as you know, Ms. Riley, most people won't call us unless they feel like they've hit a roadblock.
So perhaps we could spell out what that is. And also, would this apply to all Town of Raynham communication, all departments, or just those in Town Hall,
I would think all.
including our police and fire?
Correct.
Okay. All right. As I said, if we could maybe table it for 1 week and refer it to our town administrator to see if there's any feedback before we vote to approve, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Is that a motion, or do you want to just leave it at conversation?
We can leave it at conversation as long as we know what we're talking about. That's fine.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it under old business. Mrs. Smith, anything under old business for you? Okay,
No, I have nothing, Joe.
thank you. Miss Riley, anything?
No, no, thank you.
Thank you. Under new business, discussion and action, non-union employee contracts. I spoke to the town administrator, and I believe the only one that we can take up tonight is the veterans agent. Our plumbing inspector had made a last-minute request, and where that hasn't been discussed yet or voted on in executive session, I don't think it would be appropriate to vote on it in open session yet. So if there's no objection from the board, the only agenda item for contracts would be the veterans agent contract.
Oh, let's see. I think there was only one change to that, was there not?
Are you talking about the veterans agent or the plumbing inspector?
The veterans, which one are we gonna do tonight? The veterans agent?
Yeah, what I'm proposing is the only vote we take tonight is the veterans agent because that's the one that has gone through executive session and has taken a vote. The plumbing inspector had been resolved and then there was a last minute request.
I wouldn't vote on any of them right now.
Okay. Ms. Riley, do you have any input on that?
I think there may be one issue with that contract that we might want to still discuss in executive session if we could this evening, Mr. Chairman, and maybe take a final vote on all the remaining ones at next week's meeting.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion then to table those.
I'll make that motion for 1 week.
Was that
Second.
all right? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, yeah.
Joe, could you please go back to the old business? You forgot the master plan committee recommendations.
I don't have that on my agenda. That's why.
Not mine.
Okay, well, I apologize. I don't know. I brought up the one that was posted to the town's website on 6:37 on Friday. Mr. Waters, can you speak to this? Because apparently there's two agendas out there.
Yes, it was tabled at the last meeting and it did not get carried over to this agenda. But it's a continuation of old business where it's the master planning committee that the board received and was tabled till this meeting.
Okay, I don't have an objection with us taking it up if the board doesn't, where we did speak about it last week and it was voted to be tabled to this week. Is there any objection to that?
I have none.
Okay, all right, then what is the board's pleasure on that?
Well, I just wondered why there were two members from the planning board on that.
I can't answer that. I would have to defer to the building commissioner or town administrator.
I believe you're talking about Mr. Andrade and Mr.
Andrade, both of them.
Okay. I'll have to, yeah. My only understanding is that if the planning board members requested to be on there, they were added on there.
Well, it doesn't look too good to have the two of them from the planning board, both in the same family on the committee. I think there's other members of the board that probably should have taken it. That's just my opinion.
I would imagine that everybody was asked because that's typically what happens, but how would you like to proceed?
We can either take it back to Bob or Graham, you can take it back to Bob and just ask him if that was the procedure and if that's the end result of it.
Okay. Is there a limit on the number of planning board members that the board of selectmen would like to see on there? I believe it might also have to do with the fact that one member is coming off and another member is coming on. I haven't looked into that, but I can check.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mrs. Smith, then are you requesting that this be tabled?
I am. Well,
right.
actually, I can't do that because I won't be here.
I'll make that motion then, Mr. Chairman, to table it for 1 week and get clarification from Mr. Iafredi.
Okay, Mrs. Smith, you're not going to second that?
I I am, but I mean, it won't do any good anyway.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
You know what I'm saying? I,
Okay, that's tabled again. And Graham, please make sure it's on the agenda next time.
Will do.
Okay, next up is discussion of resumes on the accountant consultant. As the board knows, our town accountant resigned. We have a vacancy in that position. The administrator is proposing a consultant. He did send us some information late last week with 2 proposed candidates. Discussion on that, Mrs. Smith?
well, you know, I've read them over and I have no, you know, I really shouldn't be voting on it because
Okay,
I
so
won't
you
be
want,
here when you're doing that. So go ahead. Go to
okay,
Pat, please.
You know, Mr. Chairman, point of clarification though, Marie, you're still a member of this board. So up until Saturday's vote, you have every right to vote on anything that, you know, you want to. You're still an elected member at this point.
I know that, but whomever you choose is going to be there. And I don't know, you know, just because somebody says they're a CPA, that doesn't mean anything to me because municipal finance is completely different. So I don't know on either one of these.
yeah, I was hoping, I had asked for resumes and I didn't get those. So what I would like, Ms. Riley, if you're amenable to it, is we take it under advisement. I'd like to see resumes. And I had also inquired as to our previous consultant, and I don't see his name on the proposal of candidates. So if it's amenable, yes, Mr. Waters.
Mr. Chairman, the resumes were included along with this memo, but as a separate attachment. And then I can speak to the other firms that we contacted and other individuals as well. But if you feel more comfortable postponing it for a week, that's fine. But I just urge the board to consider that time is of the essence for having somebody fill in that position.
Yeah, I will double check my emails. I don't recall seeing the resume attachments, but if they are in there, I would definitely want to take some time.
I did get them, Joe, so they are in there.
I believe they were in today's packet that we received from the Selectmen's office. Mr. Chairman, you made reference to the previous consultant.
Yes.
May I ask who that is?
I honestly, truthfully, I don't remember his name. I just know when we had a vacancy there, he had came in 2 separate occasions, and my only connection to him and recommendation of him would be that he's been in the facility before. He knows the town, he knows our systems, and we'd probably have some cost savings because he wouldn't have to take billable hours to get up to speed as to what operations are in Raynham. But truthfully, I do not recall his name, but I did have conversations about him with Mr. Waters.
Yeah, that would be Mr. Kempshire, Eric Kempshire. We contacted him, and he had too much business currently going on that he wouldn't be able to assist us. We also contacted 2 other accounting firms, Lynch Marini and Citron Cooperman. And then we also reached out to a gentleman whose name is Todd Hassett. Mike got this recommendation, who's sort of equivalent of an Eric Kempshire. And he was busy as well. And he actually made the recommendation for Chris Lavolette, who is the individual that both Mike and I are putting forward as the recommended consultant to assist the town. The resumes were included, I believe, with the report that I sent to the board on Friday, along with this memo. I'll go back and double check to give you.
I did receive them, so
Okay.
I know they are there.
Ms. Riley, would you be okay postponing this for a week?
Sure, that's fine, Mr. Chairman. If I could, before we table the motion, just ask Mr. Waters, this Mr. Lavalette, that's the recommendation of you and Mr. King?
Correct, yes.
And could you just for information explain, we have someone, a firm that's going to be looking at our accounting procedures, treasurer collector's office, and giving us some recommendations. Is that correct?
So we've requested assistance from the Division of Local Services to do a financial policy and organizational review for both the Treasurer Collector's Office and the Accounting Office to see if the structure we have in place is the best structure for the town. The town has had this structure in place for some time, and we just want to know if it's still serving us in the best way. And they're also going to recommend best practices for financial policies, as well as anything else that we can ask them to take a look at in regards to the Treasurer Collector's Office and the Accounting Office.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. And Mr. Chairman, is that along the lines of what you were thinking when you had recommended previously that we needed, was it a budget analyst, or was that the correct terminology?
Yeah, I had proposed the budget analyst position to assist us, but I think this review is looking at all of our financial operations, not that particular position on its own.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, so can I have a motion then to
Yeah,
table this for 1 week?
Yes, I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, great, thank you. Next up, Town Administrator's Report, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keeping in line with the personnel theme, the Town Hall Department experienced some vacancies. Looking for some direction from the Board of Selectmen on the vacancies for the health agent and the Conservation Committee Board of Health clerk. They're both still full right now, but they will be vacant in the future. The Government Study Committee is looking at what it will take to move animal control under the Board of Health, and that was a motion made by the Board of Selectmen, I believe, at the last meeting. So my question that I'd like to pose to the board is, should we wait until the Government Study Committee puts forward their recommendation and look for temporary assistance, or move forward with the status quo and replace the health agent in the clerk position as is? I've already started looking into neighboring communities and the MMA for temporary assistance guidance and to see what which seems to make the most sense until the Government Study Committee completes its recommendations.
My suggestion to the board would be on that for this to be an agenda item next week, so the public knows we're discussing it and we can have a fruitful conversation as to these positions and how we want to proceed.
Would you like to make that, would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
That would be great, Ms. Riley, if you don't
I
mind.
will make that. Yes, sure.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on Tuesday, June 30th at 7 p.m. will be our next Selectmen's regularly scheduled meeting via telemeeting. Instructions for public participation will be posted with the agenda. And a reminder again that town elections are this Saturday, the 27th. Polling hours correctly put this time 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mr. Chairman. All precincts vote at the Raynham Middle School, 420 Titicut Road. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman. If you'll entertain questions or comments from the board.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith, any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Riley, any questions?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up, Selectmen's Report, Mrs. Smith.
Well, I really don't think I have anything to report. I haven't been to any of the restaurants. Have you guys been to the restaurants? Are they getting full?
I've stopped into a few, and I definitely wouldn't say they're where they used to be. I was actually at the Stone Forge last night, and you know, they're doing some business. It seems like takeout is still predominantly what's consuming them.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. At least they've got something in there. Well, I know they were pretty full before all this nonsense, so I'm hoping that that really gets, you know, gets going, since the governor did allow them to start having inside. And I really hope we're going to get through this virus quicker than we think, you know. I can just shudder to think that it goes until August or September. I would like to take a minute, if I could, please, since this is my last moment on TV with you guys. I just want to thank everyone for all the support they've given me over the years. And I wanted to thank all of the people I have worked with, the Ed Buckleys and the Jimmy Donovans and everyone. I've really had a great time with all of them. They've always been very courteous and helpful to me, and I am going to miss everybody. I thought I saw Joe Emerson on. Joe, if you're out there, yeah, you are there. I see you now. I want to thank you for all the times you kept me out of trouble. And like your father before you, you are very knowledgeable, courteous, and a very complete gentleman. And I want to thank you very much for everything over all these years. And it has been quite a few. You know, when I first ran, I had a slogan, and the slogan was, "It's time." Well, now I guess it's time again. Thank you all for everything. I really appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Riley, anything?
I have a few things, Mr. Chairman. I did have the opportunity, as hopefully many others did, to watch Candidates Night on the Raynham Channel on Monday. And I think we're very fortunate. We have two very knowledgeable, very qualified candidates for the office of Selectmen. Although it's going to be really hard to fill Mrs. Smith's shoes, that's for sure. Impossible, actually. But hopefully everybody will go out to vote on Saturday, as Mr. Waters mentioned. 8 to 4 is the voting at the Raynham Middle School. I know our town clerk with assistance has made sure that everybody will be as safe as possible and that will go as smoothly as can be. So hopefully everybody, turns out for that. It's so important that we get a good turnout. And I know we've mentioned before, congratulations to all of our graduates. I just wanted to make sure, you can't mention everybody, but special recognition to Stephanie Damish was the valedictorian, top in her class at Bridgewater Raynham. She is a Raynham resident, daughter of Leslie and Steve Damish, actually the top 3 students. I know we don't like to distinguish Bridgewater and Raynham, they're all BR, but we can have a little hometown pride once in a while. And all 3 students, top 3 students, Stephanie Damish, Maddie Thomas, and Shanze Iklas, are all Raynham residents. And good luck to all of them. Congratulations. And also, Bristol Plymouth. Just have to mention, too, another great family. Tommy Kelleher graduated in the top 10 of his class. And of course, that's a great Raynham family with not only his dad, Jeff Kelleher, in our Raynham Fire Department, but also his brother, Justin Kelleher. And of course, his mom, Kelly, works at our Raynham Center Water District. So congratulations to all of those. As Mr. Buckley mentioned, a lot of bicycles out there and pedestrians with the summer season here. So everybody, please be extra careful out there. We don't want to have any accidents. And lastly, just my heartfelt thanks going out to Marie Smith. Marie, I think it's 18 years on the Board of Selectmen. And oh my gosh, that's a lot of meetings, a lot of patience, a lot of dedication and commitment. And I know, Marie, you've always had the best interests of the town of Raynham at heart. And my understanding is your involvement with the town of Raynham goes back way before that even, I think initially working in the town clerk's office, if I'm not mistaken, according to the history of the town of Raynham. So you will be impossible to replace for sure, and we wish you well in your retirement. And we are going to have to invite you back to another time when we can all be in the same room so we can thank you appropriately. But thanks so much, Marie. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Pat, very much. I appreciate that. Nice, kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. I have a few things myself. I had a constituent reach out to me and he made a request that I bring this up, and I assured that constituent that I would do it. With the 4th of July coming up, people tend to use fireworks more, and I'm sure the board has read there's been in some communities a 2,800% increase in the use of firework complaints to police departments. And so I would just like to remind folks that while they're illegal, if they are going to do them, to try to be mindful of your neighbors and their little children, veterans who might be triggered by them, animals, and on top of it, the fact that in addition to them being illegal, we do have a noise ordinance that prevents that type of noise beyond 10 p.m. And so just a friendly request to be mindful of that as we approach the 4th of July. As had been previously said, the election is Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I hope people will take the opportunity to get out and vote. If they aren't able to make it for any reason, absentee ballots and early voting is still available through Friday. Also, a couple other things I wanted to discuss quickly. A new report came out this week relative to mass unemployment. And in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we still have over 570,000 individuals who are receiving unemployment benefits. And last week, another 30,156 claims were filed. That represents 16% of all eligible employees in the state being unemployed. And so this is definitely hitting home. We have Raynham residents that unfortunately are caught up in these numbers. And then in addition to that, I also read today that over 2,000 educators in the Commonwealth have received layoff notices so far. This while the state is requesting smaller class sizes next fall as a precaution for COVID. So definitely something we should be keeping our eyes on, something I'm definitely focusing on. And lastly, I would like to echo the sentiments of you, Ms. Riley, and Mr. Buckley, our highway superintendent, and extending gratitude to Mrs. Smith for her years of service to the town of Raynham. I've served with her for the past 12 years, and I can certainly say she has been a passionate advocate for the issues that have been important to her and her philosophies. And I thank you, Mrs. Smith, for your service to the town of Raynham, and certainly wish you nothing but the best in a well-deserved retirement. All right.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Correspondence, we have a couple, not on the agenda, but extremely important. The resignation of our health agent. It is with a heavy heart that the purpose of this letter is to give my resignation as health agent for the town of Raynham effective June 30th, 2020. My current contract ends June 30th, and after serious consideration, I am not accepting the successor contract that has just recently been offered. As outlined in my email on June 11th, I am in the process of using all earned personal and vacation time. This position has given me invaluable knowledge and experience, and for that I'm very grateful. Please know that this decision was a very difficult one to make. I value the time I have spent working for the town of Raynham and the friends I have made during my tenure. While short, I hope that my time here has and will continue to make a positive impact on the town and the office. I wish nothing but the best for the health department and the town of Raynham. Respectfully, Matt Tanis, our health agent. I would suggest to the board we accept with regret. And as I said last week with our accountant, I'm personally very upset to see Mr. Tanis go. He's been a great employee and an asset to the town, and but I certainly wish him well in future endeavors. What's the board's pleasure?
A motion to accept with deep regret.
Well, I just can't even accept that as a motion back because I can't bear the fact that he is leaving. I just can't bear it. I'm so sorry that he is. I know he has sent the letter, and I know as protocol says we have to accept it. But in my heart of hearts, I really, really hated to hear that letter. I really did.
Is that a second, though, Mrs. Smith?
With regret. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Other correspondence, we have the Tag Day request for Boy Scout Troop 79. What's the board's pleasure?
A motion to accept. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Next is a letter from Carly Hackley, Sherwood Lane, vehicle speeding. She's requesting some assistance on Sherwood Lane relative to speeding and specifically speed bumps. I know this has come up in a number of areas in the town in the past. My recommendation would be to forward to both highway and the police department and fire department for their review and input, because in the past there's been some significant objections to them for some legitimate public safety concerns.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved, thank you. And then the next is from Under the Sun Farm. They are looking to lease from July to October the farm stand on King Philip Street. Past correspondence had proposed a particular fee, which the board has accepted. That hasn't happened. I would recommend the board request Mr. Waters negotiate with them and come back with a proposal for the board next week.
Are they the ones that had it this past year? The past couple?
I believe so. I can't tell you definitively, but based upon how the letter's worded, it definitely seems like they were the ones.
Oh, right. I'll go along with your motion, if that was a motion. If you didn't make it, I will.
All right, great.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. Next up on the agenda is press time. Any members of the press with us this evening? Seeing none. Any emergency business, Mrs. Smith?
None, sir.
Ms. Riley?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Citizen and community input, any, and Margot, this is where I'll need your help if there's anybody on your end.
Hi, this is Margot Fortier with Raynham. There's no messages on this side, and I don't believe there's any on the stream side either. And everyone at Raynham just wants to say thank you to Marie Smith as well. Obviously, you do a lot for us, and we just want to say thank you for everything you do for this town.
You're welcome, honey.
Thank you. Next up, citizen and community input, any?
Joe, this is Masha. Can you hear me?
Hi, Masha, I can hear you.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to Marie as well. Marie, I've known you a long time. We've worked together, and I've enjoyed our times together. We've had fun, and when I've had some issues, I've gone to you, and I know you've listened, so I appreciate that, and I'm sorry you're leaving. I'm also sorry that Matt is leaving. Matt is just been such a wonderful asset, as I've said in the past few weeks, to our office as well as the whole town, and it's extremely upsetting that he's leaving, as well as David Grab, our town accountant. They've all been so good to the town of Raynham, and Gail Santos. It's like everybody's leaving, and it's just a sad time for us. But I just wanted to thank everybody and for including me with everything we've been involved with.
Thank you, Masha. Seeing no other citizen and community input, performance of administrative duties, approval of the town of Raynham payroll invoice and payroll warrants dated June 23rd.
Motion to accept and to authorize the town administrator to sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And approval of the Raynham police invoice and payroll warrants dated June 23rd.
Motion to approve and authorize the town administrator to sign.
Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for us to go into executive session under section 30, chapter 30A, section 21, purpose 1, 2, and 3. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to, I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, and in case people don't have the agenda in front of them, it's to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Also to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And finally, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, and then to return to open meeting only to adjourn with no additional business to be conducted.
Great.
And I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Roll call vote, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, roll
Yeah.
call, Ms. Smith. Ms. Riley?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned.